Hey guys, it's Riot Kitty. Before I begin this manga review, I just wanted to say that this RWBY Shonen Jump manga is getting a printed version. It was announced at the RWBY panel at RTX 2019 that a first volume of the manga will be available in physical form. So, if you're like me and you want physical copies of all your stuff, then make sure to get it when it comes out in Q1 of 2020. I don't believe there is a specific month yet, but it's in the first part of the year. With that being said, let's get it started. Chapter 7 begins almost immediately after Chapter 6, with Sun chasing after Blake and, asking her what's wrong repeatedly. Like, hey, we're both faunus, but Blake, of course, gives him the cold shoulder. However, Sun finally gets her attention by saying that he wants to help her clear her comrades' names, and he's got some info that could help her. We then cut to Ruby Rose lying in her bed thinking about Blake and the White Fang, and it then transitions into a flashback. And I gotta say, I really like the composition of these panels on this page because, there's duller lines and, also there's more gray instead of, black and white, indicating a duller and more depressing atmosphere. The girls are talking about what happened with Blake and, they're all giving pretty different answers on what to do. Weiss is just being super logical, like, oh, why did she run? And if she is part of a terrorist organization, that's inexcusable, while Ruby's trying to play the compromiser. It's like, look, we should go find Blake and ask, but then Yang is like somewhere in the middle where she's basically saying, I don't really want to go after her. If I did go after her and learn the truth, then I have a feeling things will never ever be the same as they were. And I do like that. We got differing perspectives for the girls. They're different thoughts and opinions on this stuff. And then there's these just two really somber pages where Ruby looks at Blake's empty bed, and then it cuts to her just barely out of the dorm room they're in, and she looks back at the beds and then click on the pages with Weiss and Yang actually still up. They're still up. And so that honestly raises a very interesting question that, did Ruby actually know that her teammates were still up? Like, what I liked about this is, like, they're not trying to stop Ruby, and Ruby's not trying to get them to do anything they don't want to do. And we then cut back to Blake and Sun, and Blake is trying to figure Sun out. She wants to know what his objective is, and tries to figure him out. But Sun insists that, he's just a guy who wants to help her. It does make sense for Blake's character, though, since she was part of a terrorist organization. Lies and deceit were her specialty, and she doesn't really know if this guy actually wants to help her or not. She eventually comes around and agrees to do his stakeout with Sun, only after calling him a fool. And then Ruby's walking around. She's like, I don't know what to do anymore. She's so uncertain and doubtful that she might even find Blake, or what she would say to her when she did. And then Penny, she gives her a pep talk with Ruby doubting herself and thinking even, Weiss and Yang were probably right about Blake, but Penny's like, well, she's your friend. The fact of your friendship remains unchanged, right? So then it cuts back to Sun and Blake, and they're staking out the harbor. Sun offers Blake some bananas, and then there's this cute thing with her eating bananas, and I like that. It's very cute. Even though Blake agreed to stake out with Sun, she's still trying to gauge what his game is here. And Sun is like, you've got it all wrong. I'm just a simple guy, just trying to help you, and stuff like that. After a quick joke from Sun, Blake finally decides to open up to him about the White Fang. And I actually really like this panel. It's kind of a little creepy even. You know, it's like, oh, they were like family. I was so proud. But then cracks started beginning to form with the stone wall cracking. And then at the bottom, there's like literally blood pools like spurging out from the bottom right. That's really cool. And she says, well, my powers are used to protect, not to kill. And then Fauna's hearing kicks in. She hears the airship coming, so she tells the sun to hide, and an airship comes down. And what shocks her is that White Fang members are on it. What shocks Blake even more is that the White Fang is teamed up with a human, Roman Torchwick. And so, in a very reckless decision, she decides to go down there and be like, oh, they won't team up with humans. That can't possibly be the case. What I like about this following exchange between Blake and Roman is that even though Blake has got a blade next to his throat, Roman is in control of the situation. He is not panicked in the slightest, and he literally trolls the ever-loving fluff out of Blake. And he's like, no, we are partners, we are equals, you're solely mistaken, girl. Blake's even like, well, you must have deceived them somehow or whatever, and then Roman's like, just witness with your own 2 eyes. And all that taking back of pride, did that ever really exist? And the White Fang pulls up their weapons, and with a very panicked Blake, that's where the chapter ends. God, I love the Roman dialogue. I really do. He's just trolling the ever-loving fluff out of Blake, and he knows it. Chapter 8 begins exactly where Chapter 7 left off, with Blake holding a blade to Roman's neck. And he's like, why are they doing this? And Roman's like, well, that is the true nature of all the faunus and stuff, so. He does the same maneuver as in the show. He basically just dusts his cane with gunpowder and then shoots it, creating a giant ass explosion. Blake ends up fighting the White Fang members, and Sun goes toe-to-toe with Roman. See, even though they're fighting him, they've ruined his plans. Roman still has complete control of the situation at hand. He actually distracts Sun for a moment, allowing him to actually put his gun cane to his stomach, and he wouldn't have died if not for RWBY, who jumps in to save Sun from Roman. Now it's RWBY's turn to be completely confused at what's going on. It's like, huh? The White Fang? Huh? The Diner Dasher? Huh? Oh, it's Roman Torchwick. I especially like this shot of RWBY staring at Roman. He's like, well, we meet again, miss. And then Roman decides to call a bunch of airships. One for his escape, and a lot to surround everyone involved. Sounds like, well, what chance do we have at surviving this? RWBY's like, nope. Nope, she says. And then, well, bam. Surprise. Penny is on top of one of the airships. Ever the considerate girl, RWBY asks Penny to get down from there, but she's like, there's no cause for alarm. And so she starts to activate battle mode, which basically involves her taking out a bunch of swords and slicing and dicing all the airships in her path. Then there is this absolutely beautiful double-page spread of Penny with her swords and stuff. I really like how this looks. It kind of reminds me of the World of Remnant videos from back in the day, with the way her swords are drawn and presented. And then the White Fang members bail after seeing their airships getting torn apart like it was nothing. What I like about here is that, if not for Penny, I wholeheartedly believe in the manga, Sun, Blake, and RWBY would be dead. So there's this nice power scaling going on. So Penny is stronger than the White Fang members, but none of the main girls are stronger than the White Fang here. Weiss and Yang come to get them, and, well, it's very touching as Yang suddenly hugs Blake and like, oh, I'm so worried about you and stuff like that. And I know a while back some people were saying this was a shipping moment, and only a weirdo would think this was a shipping moment, considering Yang literally has hugged everyone that let her hug them in this manga. Anyways, unlike Yang, Weiss is mostly silent, waiting for Blake to speak. RWBY tries to step in, her being the leader and all, but Blake tells her that she can speak for herself and stands up to face Weiss, telling her that she is no longer part of the White Fang. Though this is nice character growth for Blake. Instead of running away and not giving an explanation, she's actually talking to her teammates. Weiss does reveal that she does believe Blake and spent the night making up her mind about it, because she believes in the person she's come to know, not anything from her past. And like previous times, Weiss does give a lecture to Blake, although it's not that much of a lecture. No more disappearing acts, instead you talk it out like teammates. Weiss is even humble enough to apologize to Blake, saying she might have taken things a little bit too far. And Blake actually laughs a bit, and she smiles. Smile. That's nice. Then the conversation turns towards Sun, as Team RWBY finally notices his existence. And he says, well, I came here from the Kingdom of Mistral, and I'm going to be in the Vital Festival. Quick jokes about not judging a book by its cover, and then Ruby's like, oh, wait, speaking of that, did you guys see Penny? And then she notices that Penny has vanished. It then cuts to Penny sitting in a car with an older man, I presume, and he asks her, did you have a pleasant walk? And she says yes, as the car drives away into the night. We then get another cut with Roman walking around a derelict alleyway, and the first appearance of Cinder. I gotta admit, the way she's drawn here, pretty alluring, I gotta admit. I never really liked Cinder's design in the show, ever. So this is a nice change of pace. She looks very elegant and very alluring. In Chapter 8, nothing much of notoriety happens. It's not that it's a bad chapter, it's just that there's only really certain things I want to focus on here. So I'll try to keep this brief. The chapter opens up with Blake discussing what happened in the previous chapters with Professor Ozpin. He asks her some questions, and, well, Blake lies. She says that she was just passing by. And, well, she kind of has to, otherwise she might get arrested. However, the important thing to gauge from these couple of pages, and Blake in general throughout the rest of the chapter, is that Roman Torchwick definitely got inside of her head, with his words planted out clearly on the panel page, and Blake rejecting Ozpin's offer for help. She's distracted, she's not really paying attention to what's happening around her, etc., etc. That is the marking of a good antagonist. And the next few pages are just Team RWBY and Team Juniper goofing off and having fun. It's something that I really miss about the show. You know, you can fight a terrorist group in one episode, and you can have a stupid food fight the next episode. Then it cuts to Glenda and Ozpin. Glenda is not sure about bringing in a military unit, and then we get the first introduction of Ironwood into the manga. Ironwood tells Ozpin that the White Fang and its sympathizers are on the move, and they must remain vigilant, with Ozpin being a slightly more laid back, saying that, oh, the Vital Festival's coming up and stuff, we should not really do military stuff right now. And then Ironwood asks Ozpin the hard-hitting question, is he prepared to send his students out on the battlefield? This is all happening while Sun and Neptune are going to meet Team RWBY. With some added friendly banter between the two, they open the cafeteria doors to find pure chaos as Team RWBY and Team Juniper are all engaging in the food fight. This is where I'd like to highlight another nice change from the show, and that's with Ozpin's answer to Ironwood. It's actually a combination of a bunch of speeches he gave in the show, like how they'll grow up, they have to become guardians, they have to go out into the battlefield one day, and for that reason, they get to enjoy being the children they are. Now, it's not so much the answer itself, but who it's directed to, as James Ironwood is the headmaster of Atlas Academy. He runs a highly militaristic academy, and from day one, it's basically like, you're a soldier, you're going to be set out on the battlefield, you don't get to have fun or anything like that, while Ozpin gives his students a little bit more leeway and freedom. It kind of puts Ironwood and Ozpin on opposite sides of the aisle, even though they are on the same side. So, just a little quick thing there. And then it cuts to Team RWBY in the dorms after the food fight. I like Blake here because it shows her being humble and sincere. It's like, you know what, I screwed up and I don't want to get you guys hurt in helping me stop the White Fang or anything like that. She's a student here. Sort of another example of Roman getting in her head. And then Team RWBY just prods her along. It's like, you know what, we're going to help you. We're going to solve this as a team. And so they're like, okay, let's think of a plan. And then Sun and Neptune show up, with Sun persuading the girls to let him and his teammate join up. So they all make their plans, they all go out, and you know what? The chapter ends with this pretty cool looking panel of them all setting out on their respective missions. What do I think of this overall? Well, nothing much happened except for the action and whatnot. I do like Penny's personality a lot more here. I like Blake being humble. I like Roman literally trolling everyone. Just overall, it's alright. It's average. But you know what? There's still some great stuff in here. So probably these bundle of chapters here I would give 7 out of 10. And Riot Katie is signing out.